Whose fault is the BLM, Major League Baseball, MLB? Whose fault is it that MLB is taking advantage of the situation in Georgia? I saw the enemy.
So right now, the left's case is that any Republican attempt to create a regimen of voter ID where we can actually verify where you are from, or to limit in some way early voting, this is somehow racist. The idea implicit here is that somehow this is going to directly affect black people specifically. Why? Are black people incapable of getting a voter ID? That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Are black people incapable of voting on the day of elections? Of course not. What exactly is racist about seeking better voter verification standards? And so based on this original lie, what you will see piled up are more lies, right? So the original lie is that certain people in America are not capable of making certain decisions, which is not true. And then rooted in that lie, you'll see lies about the policies that are being promulgated.
We are done with the cancel culture and this pressuring. Let's just play sports and leave the politics out of it.
It comes amid growing backlash against major companies like Coca-Cola and Delta Airlines, which criticized the law after it passed. Former President Trump urging people to, quote, boycott baseball and all the woke companies that criticize the law. Just today, Texas Governor Greg Abbott declined to throw out the Texas Rangers' first pitch. And the Atlanta Braves, whose players have already covered up the All-Star patch on their uniforms, expressing disappointment, writing, "This was neither our decision nor our recommendation."
So as we look at Atlanta and the challenges happening there with the Major League Baseball and the All-Star game that was supposed to be held there, but then they canceled because of the voter laws that Georgia has recently passed requiring identification, shortening pre-voting day voting. You know, when you look at all these things, who's to blame? Well, there was a great naval battle at the War of 1812 up in Lake Erie, where the naval captain said, "I saw the enemy and he is ours." Well, that was then co-opted by a cartoon that said, "I saw the enemy and he is us." And that's the problem. We as conservatives have put up with this kind of stuff. The MLB has antitrust exemptions in the government. And so the problem comes in, all right, so you know, if we look as we've said, well, you know, we'll give them antitrust because, you know, they're baseball and they're sports. But you know what? We didn't push back on any of this stuff. And that's the problem we're facing today. When these companies have gotten these exemptions to otherwise good laws, and the theory was that they wouldn't, take advantage of their exemption, we allowed that. And we have got to stop this and stop giving exemptions to good laws for companies that maybe we think at the time is fun, because people have proven they're going to take that too far. And that's the problem we have. Whose fault is the BLM, Major League Baseball, MLB? Whose fault is it that MLB is taking advantage of the situation in Georgia? It is our fault. And we are the ones to blame. But the great news is we are also the ones that can fix it.
The MLB decided that because of the voting laws that are passed for voter security and authenticity in the state of Georgia, that they were no longer going to have the All-Star game in Georgia, and it's in Atlanta. Now let me show you how stupid these woke people are, and I don't understand how they even survive after doing stuff so stupidly, if that's even a word. You have a All-Star game that's historically done in Atlanta. And do you know how many black people live in Atlanta, Georgia? Literally, the most black folks concentrated in America in one place is probably Atlanta, Georgia. Do you know how many black-owned businesses are in Atlanta, Georgia? Do you know how many black people are employed when the MLB brings the All-Star game to Atlanta, Georgia? Do you understand how much revenue and excitement and longevity it causes the city when the MLB is bringing the All-Star game? People can see their favorite players are at in Atlanta, Georgia. But in their pursuit of I don't know, justice, they disenfranchise the biggest city full of black people because of voter laws that suppress black people. How does that make sense? In a reasonable sense, you'd say, bring the All-Star game here, give black people more opportunities, help people register to vote, but you mother are dirty and evil and dumb.
And yet the argument from the left is that it is designed to stop black people from voting because somehow black people are, what, incapable of jumping through the very basic hoop of getting an ID? I don't think so. Here's Stacey Abrams pushing it anyway.
We deserve to have a say in the direction of our nation, in the direction of our states, and in the direction of our communities. And when democracy is undermined by laws that we have seen pass not only in Georgia, but in Iowa, and laws that are under consideration in Arizona, in Texas, in New Hampshire, in Florida, in 43 states across this country, we are seeing an onslaught, an attack on democracy.
That is a lie. It is not an attack on democracy. It is not an onslaught. These are very simple verification procedures. And Democrats want to undermine all of those. That's what the so-called For the People Act is all about, this H.R. 1. It is all about undermining voter verification procedures. Okay, so recognize the actual agenda, which is to loosen voting procedures so that fraud actually becomes more common and the possibility of fraud becomes more common, and ballot harvesting, which I think is one of the most nefarious things in American voting, becomes the rule of the land. That's the actual goal. But in order to push that goal, they're going to continue to foster the lie that these measures are aimed at stopping black people from voting and or black people are incapable of voting if you put these conditions in place that are equally applicable to everyone.
So probably it's not going to be a big deal, which is why Republicans need to exercise political power here. Cruz and Lee are calling on the federal government, Jeff Duncan, too, who's a representative, he's a Republican in the House of Representatives. They want to strip the MLB of antitrust exemptions that grant them immunity from federal anti-monopoly laws. Mike Lee pointed out that MLB has legal protections that other sports leagues like the NFL and the NBA don't have. So they should lose those. Well, but Michael, you're only doing this because the MLB went woke. Yup, that's true. You got it. Well, but Michael, the left wields government power, and we don't want to be like the left. We don't want to win. We don't want to be successful. We don't want to have a sophisticated understanding of politics. I don't want to wield government power in the same way that the left is doing it, because I think the stuff that the left is doing is bad.
And we are the ones to blame. But the great news is we are also the ones that can fix it. Thank you for watching that video. If you like that, remember to give me a thumbs up and subscribe right up here. For other great content, take a look at our recommended video over here and see our playlist right over there. Remember to go to www.dustyfriday.com for great memes, news, videos, and my podcast available on all major platforms. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next one.